So I am calling the Excellence in Student Achievement meeting to order. Do we have any action on the minutes for December 13th, 2023?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. All in favor? Unanimous. Oh, and I also want to make a point to mention that Heather Ann has been excused from this meeting. Okay, Christine, if you would like to go into the UBD unit review for math.
Sure. So this evening, what I thought I would do is I would start by going over understanding by design in a nutshell. What is it actually? Talk a little bit about some of the trainings the teachers have gone through. Also talk about some of the samples I gave you. And then we can have a discussion about how we want to move forward with looking at hundreds of these documents. I would also like to back up and begin by stating and thanking the teachers and administrators for all of their hard work over the past 2 years to get this accomplished. It has not been an easy task. It was a very large to-do item and a very big ask of our educators to think differently about curriculum writing, to look at it through a lens of decisively looking at unit planning in hopes that we would boost student achievement. So I'd like to say that first. I do have handouts for you. Tom, you could pass that out.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to do a brief overview, but I did supply you some more information if you wanted to look at it. I also shared a folder with you with some of the curriculum samples from the high school. I'm going to be referring to Algebra 1, Unit 1 for this overview. So to look at understanding by design, also known as UBD, it's a framework and approach to curriculum development. It teaches educators to think decisively about that unit planning. It has 2 goals in mind. First is to help curriculum planning, like what are they actually going to teach, and helps the educators instruct more effectively, thinking about the end in mind. What is our end result? What do we want our kids to know and be able to do by the time they leave this class, by the time they leave this unit, by the time they leave this building, etc. So if you're looking at the first page of the handout, looking at the left-hand side where it says established goals. Here, this is where we would have the competencies. So our K-12 competencies that we have at Sanborn across the district, and also what we refer to as our performance indicators. Those are our standards. So that would be like the next gen standards for science, the Common Core standards for math and language arts. And on here, if you look at the sample I gave you, one of those established goals is to select strategies and appropriate tools to develop and implement a plan to solve a problem. The transfer. So students will be able to independently use their learning too. So the transfer is the knowledge gained from the lesson or the unit, and how they can apply it to the outside context of the course. So the transfer this has been included for Algebra 1, applying strategies using expressions, numbers, and quantities to preserve through challenging problems and situations both in and beyond that classroom. From there, we have understanding. So what are students going to be understanding? What will they understand? And the important piece of that is when they complete the unit or the course, what are they going to leave with? The essential question is to foster inquiry. So in here, if you're looking at the sample I gave you, those general understandings that by the time this unit is done, and some units usually about 6 weeks long, give or take, some are longer, some are shorter, depending on the course taught. Written statements can be translated into numerical and algebraic expressions. And the essential question that's driving this unit, how can mathematical expressions be represented and evaluated? Moving on from that, still in stage 1, we're looking at acquisition. What will students know? It's the knowledge students will require from the unit, and what will students be skilled at, which is the student's skill, how they acquire from that lesson or unit. So here, some of the examples: order of operations. Students will know the order of operations. They're going to know like terms can be combined. They're going to know that verbal expressions can be translated into algebraic and absolute value expressions. What will students be skilled at in this unit? Some examples are interpreting words as mathematical symbols, recognizing the properties of equalities, using the distributive property. So that's really stage 1. Then you're moving on to stage 2. When you look at stage 2, think of it as evidence. What are kiddos going to have to do to show me that they've learned things? So this is all about assessment. So if you look here at stage 2 of the document, or stage 2 of what we have for Algebra 1, Unit 1, she's looking at, they can accurately give computations. They can efficiently problem solve. They can give clear explanations and justifications. What's that assessment evidence piece? So this here, the bigger part of assessment evidence, think about this as a summative, end of unit tests, or what here is known as a performance task in the example I gave you, because some of the approved curriculum that we have, those programs that we have, actually refer to them as performance tasks. So I wanted to include that in here, but also for your understanding, it's those summatives, those tests that we refer to as well. And in here, they have Module 1 expressions test. And then in here, you can see that this is a larger performance task, which is a zoological adventure, and ask them to build a model, etc. Also, within this section of Unit 2, you will find vocabulary terms for the unit. So this is where the instructor has placed all of the vocabulary that a student would be learning within this particular unit. And sometimes you will see when you're looking at the documents, some of these vocabulary terms are repetitive. And also some of like the competencies and or those the performance indicators as normal. So absolute value, accuracy, variable terms, reciprocals, simplest form, metrics, all of those things. And in here as well, then you're going to see the other pieces of evidence. So what else is collected throughout this unit? So this would be the formatives, those pieces, those quizzes, the homework would go here, classwork would go in here. So all those other pieces of evidence that from the top, that assessment evidence and the other evidence would then combine to make the student's grade, that final grade that you would see for this unit. Stage 3. Stage 3, what we did for stage 3 as a district is we kind of broke it out a little bit, and we're answering like the where to. So sometimes in here you'll see stage 3 and stage 4. It helps teachers break things down, because stage 3 really focuses on individual learning activities and instructional strategies. It's the teacher's lesson plans. How am I going to get kids to do what's in stage 1 and 2? How do I plan for that? And what you'll see here is several things. It's the where. Where are your students actually headed? Where do you want them to go when you're doing this? And we're asking 3 things: the previous, the now, and the next. And you'll see here in the example, previous, students performed operations on rational numbers. Now, students take what they have learned about whole numbers and apply that to algebraic expressions. And then next time, students will create equations to solve problems. You continue to scroll down, then we're going to move on to engagement. It's that hook, or what teachers call the motivational set. How am I hooking and engaging these kids into this unit? And here you can see that this teacher has done a great job because they've actually linked how they're going to do that. The last part, which is one of the most important parts of this in stage 3 or 4, is to look at the experience and explore. So here you can see we gave this as a format, so you'll see this time and time again. So everyone is using the same template for the entire district K-12. What's our lesson title going to be throughout this whole unit? What are the lesson activities? And see here, the teacher has actually linked them in blue numerical expressions. Here are the notes, and here's the actual practice. And then on the right-hand side, you will see the performance indicator and or the competency. So it's anchoring those. Like I'm going back to, oh, what's my standard? what's my expectation here, either nationally or statewide, of what I have to cover to make sure the kids are ready for what's coming next. And you will see that this teacher has about 6 different samples in here, including, but not limited to, like a Unit 1 assessment. And here again, you'll see that zoological adventure project, the expressions involving absolute values, all of those things. Any questions?
I just have to say that I looked at all 10 UBDs, not every single lesson in every single class, but I skipped around and looked at a lot of them, and the work that went into these is just mind-boggling. I mean, it's phenomenal. I love the fact that you can come in here as a parent or anybody and you can see, okay, what are the kids working on right now? Like, oh, they're in Unit 2, Lesson 4, and you can go into Unit 2, Lesson 4 in algebra, and you can see the notes for the lesson. You can see the work that they're doing. It's really, I mean, I was so blown away. I can't even tell you. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is insane. Like, I have been one of, Jamie was the biggest advocate of this, but I also have been asking for this, and I am so pleased. I can't even tell you how just, I'm so happy. This is insane. It's the amount of work that they put in is just clearly 2 years worth of work. I mean, you can see how long and how much effort has been put into this, and I am so appreciative and grateful for all of it. You guys have all knocked this out of the park. This math is just phenomenal. So
the building administration and the teachers.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a village.
Oh,
the
100%.
teachers have worked so hard and so long on this.
Yeah.
And not only have they written them, they've also tried them out and then tweaked them.
Right.
Because they care enough to make sure that what they're going to put forward and put online is what's necessary to help students achieve.
Fabulous.
So it's a lot of information. Yeah, to me, it's kind of overwhelming looking at the whole thing. But I guess from a parent perspective, you're not trying to take in all the curriculum of all the,
Right, no.
the whatever. So
Right.
You're just trying to figure, when you just need to know, like, where is my kid at? What are they doing? Because they're not telling me and they need me to help them, but I don't know what to do. You have an easy access online to be able to go in, figure out what they're learning, how they're learning it, and then you can support them better at home.
And I think it's a secondary source too, because for the parents, they also have access, because we're talking about high school.
Right.
So they would also have a course syllabus, or at the elementary level, they have a grade level overview, so they would have a scope and sequence for the year, but this goes into much further detail. And it does allow a parent to kind of, especially as they age, what did you do at school today?
Exactly.
It's not a,
Fair.
right. So parents can actually really be more actively engaged.
Yeah.
So they would know, okay, well, this is one of the first units you work on, so let's talk about, what's going on with this, or this can actually match things that are going directly into Alma. So those assessments that they're naming, whether that be a formative or a summative assessment through that stage 2 area, and then also in stage 3 where they've linked it here, parents can say, oh, you just did this. I can see this, or hey, you haven't passed this in. I can see this here. Where is this?
Right. Or,
Yes.
hey, I see you struggled on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I can help you. Let's go back in and look at this and we can work on it
Reassess it.
together. If there's a reassessment that's needed for a summative or whatever it may be, the parents can actually have the information right there to be able to help support their students at home.
Yeah.
So I think this is.
yeah, thank you. This is a lot of work, and
Yeah.
to me, it's hard to believe that we didn't have this curriculum and that everyone else, well, not everyone, that, right, everyone else, all the other schools had it. It's just mind blowing. It's hard to believe. It really is.
When people ask about why our student performance isn't on par or better than other districts, this is one of the things that we identified as one of the primary culprits.
Yeah.
You have to be able to know, you have to know and be able to do the same thing regardless of who your teacher is.
Correct.
So if two kids are taking the same course in a school, two fifth grade classrooms, the kids should know and be able to do the same things. Doesn't mean the room doesn't feel a little different, or there's an energy or a, everyone has a personality or a vibe that they bring to education that we don't want to stop that, but the learning targets and the outcomes have to be consistent. And if they're not consistent, then the receiving teacher in the next year doesn't know what they're getting. And when you put the two kids together in a class, you could have two completely different levels of learning or two different topics like this.
Right.
Or it could be like this instead of tight.
And
So it might not be up and down, it just might be different.
Right.
So
This is where vertical and horizontal alignment
Exactly.
happens, and
It's
it's
key.
how it happens.
it's key.
and to making sure that we teach all of the standards within those particular swim lanes that we have. Because what we've noticed too, and through no fault of their own, honestly, was that they were emphasizing certain standards, but then never getting to others.
Right,
Well,
and
then that's a problem, because then if you're talking about, let's say 3-5, because you brought up fifth grade, 3-5, let's say there's 4 or 5 different standards to meet within values and expressions. Well, if grade 3, 4, and 5 only focuses on a couple of them and never gets to the other 2, well, that's a situation that makes sure that you can't function in middle school, but then also that testing, that state testing, which expects them to get from A to point Z, never happens, then we have holes. We become like the Swiss cheese.
Well, and the biggest problem that people will hear about and what we have to work on with the community is this. When you align the curriculum and you have common assessments and common expectations for kids in the tight manner that's being worked on, you get one of two things from employees. There are some employees who love it because everyone's doing the same thing. I remember one teacher saying to me, if we adopt CKLA, please make sure that you hold everyone to be accountable for teaching it as hard as I'm going to, right? Then you have employees who are angry that they can't just do whatever they want anymore. And they go to the community and say, oh, it's Christine, it's the curriculum, it's Tom. We don't like it here anymore. Well, they don't like it because they can't do whatever they want. And that has to stop. You don't get to do whatever you want. You're an employee of a district that's trying to improve student achievement in math and reading. We're going to have to do some things consistently to do that well. And it's not, there's accountability for that, for me, for Christine, for the board, for every teacher, everybody, the parents, right? Because we can align the curriculum and we can make consistent or common instructional practices and assessments. And we can hold kids to a higher level and provide intervention for them to do better when they're struggling faster.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't do the other 2/3 of the pie.
Yeah.
So that's our 1/3 that we weren't doing well, and we own that. The other 2/3 are the students have to come to school ready to work, and the parents have to support us in holding them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents have to start doing schoolwork with their children at night. It can't just be the school's fault. It won't work. We can do everything possible, but if the kids don't engage, I can't fix that, right? So I'll take responsibility for my part, and Christine will, and the teachers clearly are. They're writing these,
Oh, yeah.
right? Everyone's working so hard, but we can't work harder than the kids. It has to be everybody working hard together. And that's my message moving forward, is we're taking our part in doing it. And I think people are ready to hear that and understand it.
Mm-hmm.
That parents have a responsibility to school, and the nice thing is we're setting them up for success with that.
Yeah.
So when the parents do step up, they can go and look at the documents and see
You can actually step
exactly.
up because it's
Wide
there to
open.
be able to support your students.
That's
And
it.
that's really the biggest thing, is it's here so that when they go to do it, they know how to do it.
Right.
And that's why I always wanted it. It's like, well, I want to help my kids, but they don't know how to help my kids.
Mhm.
You know, because they can't see it. I don't know what they're working on. Their book stays at school, or they don't have this, or they forgot their folder that, or whatever it may be. You know, it's nice because it's here, it's accessible, no matter where you are, whether you're at home, you're on vacation, whatever it is, you can still see what they're doing. And the other thing that I think is really important, you may have said this already, but this is also something that with our NEASC accreditation,
That is
we
correct.
needed to have done too. So it's not just something that we all want, it's also something that we need to do.
Correct.
So-
It's one of the standards for any school district.
Yep.
Is to have a written curriculum K-12 across all subject areas.
Yep.
And the other thing I think this is gonna help with is to get students ready for kindergarten. With how kids come in not ready to be in kindergarten, this is going to help parents have a roadmap and understand like what the expectations are, the second you enter kindergarten. Where we don't really have a preschool program in this state, and then what we can do to help and, because I think parents do want to, well, I don't know how to get my kid ready, what do I need to do?
Right.
And this will help with those pieces as well.
Yeah, because if you can look at it and say, okay, what are they going to be expected to start off kindergarten knowing?
Exactly.
Correct.
You can
Mhm.
figure out how to support them before they get there.
I tell everyone, if you want to help your kids, the best thing you can do is teach them the 25 letters and the sounds associated with them, and how to count and manage the numbers 1 to 10.
Correct.
If you can do those two things.
25 letters?
The alphabet,
Alphabet,
26 letters.
26.
The letters, sorry.
He's fine.
26. I'm just tired.
But that's
I didn't know if
I
like
knew
there
what
was
you were
one
talking
that
about.
had a
No, I
double
just-
sound or
I'm
something.
not feeling well and I just
No,
made a
no,
mistake.
no.
I own it.
correct you, but
You can always correct me, you know that. But if you know all the letters and you know the sounds associated with the letters and how to write them, the next step would be upper and lower.
Are we still with this new program that we have? Are they still doing lively letters or is that a thing of the past?
Are you talking about?
Is that part of the
for
curriculum?
CKLA?
I don't think lively letters is a part of
So
CPL.
part of the main, like the core teachers program, no. They still might be using lively letters for students in special ed based on what their IEP goals are,
Okay.
yes. But as far as like lively letters and things, it's not part of the CKLA
Yeah, okay,
program for the mainstream teachers.
okay,
They have their own, it's a very specific.
right.
Correct.
Everything's set up very specifically to build on itself, so they have their own programs, instead of using lively letters, they have other programs. They
Right.
have created their own program to be used.
Correct, yeah, so we still access and use a variety of different reading programs to meet all the needs of students in the district, depending on their IEP goals. I can see some like on the shelf right there.
Oh, 100%, yeah,
Yes.
I know, I look around and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
So, awesome, all right, so what do you need from us? Do you need us to recommend this to the board now?
So I
What would you
think
like?
the next step is for you as the chair and the vice chair, Micah, to have a conversation about how we want to move forward.
Okay.
There's hundreds of these.
Right.
So just because of what's coming up with the spring and things more along the lines of, hi, Troy, here he comes, Troy. You're fine. Hi. Hey, you're fine.
Meeting the date until 4:30.
You're fine, you're fine,
you're fine, you're good.
So we're just talking about, we're just talking about how we want to roll this out, and there's so many of them. I think it's a conversation, and then maybe we bring a plan to EISA.
Okay.
For review, and then a plan to the board. I did, with the teachers, for transparency, kind of give them a plan of what maybe EISA would be reviewing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we want a double review or what that would look like. So I think our next step is really to have a meeting so we can develop a plan moving
Okay.
forward, so
Perfect.
that then we can communicate that plan to the stakeholders.
Yeah, so I'll let Micah know that you'd like to have a meeting so we can talk about that and then we'll go from there.
And I'll work around your schedule.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Every single person that worked so incredibly hard on this. I've said it before, but I am blown away by how detailed and in-depth these are, and I could not be happier. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy about this. All right, I guess at this point, we can move to public comment then, right?
Mhm.
All right. Okay, well.
Seeing none.
So the next meeting will be February 14th, 2024.
Valentine's Day.
I know, Valentine's Day, everyone's meeting. Yay!
Wait, we're meeting on the 14th?
Apparently at 5 PM.
No.
It's up to you guys.
Meeting adjourned.